At 1,000 feet above the streets of Dubai, the Khalifa-II is a vertical city of glass. It's a world of high-velocity winds and zero room for error. When a sudden sandstorm surge, a wall of grit and 100 miles per hour winds hit the tower, the primary gondola was ripped from its tracks, leaving two cleaners dangling by a single frayed cable over a 1,000-foot drop. The emergency brakes were jammed by sand, and the rescue drones couldn't fly in the grit. This is the story of Falcon, a sleek, silver Egyptian Mao who lived on the exterior ledges. The guardian of the glass canyon. Chapter 1: The Ledge Walker. The Khalifa-II was not just a skyscraper, it was a silver needle stitching the desert floor to the belly of the clouds. Standing over 3,000 feet tall, its exterior was a shimmering mosaic of 24,000 glass panels that reflected the Arabian sun like a polished diamond. At these heights, the world below becomes a silent, miniature toy set, and the wind becomes a physical presence, a constant, invisible giant pushing against the steel. It was a vertical frontier where humans only ventured with harnesses, oxygen, and nerves of tempered steel. In the midst of this dizzying height lived Falcon. He was an Egyptian Mao, a breed known for its incredible speed and ancient lineage, but Falcon was a specialist of the sky. His coat was a stunning silver, dappled with charcoal spots that looked like a falcon's plumage, allowing him to blend perfectly into the shadows of the tower's ornamental beams. He had been born in the sheltered warmth of a 110th-floor mechanical penthouse, and the vertical world of the glass canyon was the only territory he had ever known. Falcon was a masterpiece of biological balance. While a human would feel the soul-crushing pull of vertigo just looking through a window, Falcon walked the 12-inch ornamental ledges with the nonchalance of a cat on a garden fence. His hind legs were longer than those of a typical cat, giving him a coiled power that allowed him to leap 6-foot gaps between support struts while the wind whistled through his whiskers. He was the only creature on Earth that navigated the exterior of the Khalifa-II without a safety tether. To the maintenance crews, Falcon was a ghostly legend. They would often see a silver flash out of the corner of their eyes while suspended in their cleaning gondolas, only to find the cat perched on a structural bolt 1,000 feet above the nearest balcony. He didn't belong to any one office or resident, he was the ward of the window washers. They left bowls of water and premium kibble on the hidden ledges near the air intake vents, and in return, Falcon provided the only bit of earth to be found in the sterile clouds. On the morning of the surge, Falcon sat on a high-velocity wind vane near the top of the spire. He felt the barometric pressure drop with a suddenness that made his ears pop. Far below, on the horizon of the Rub' al Khali Desert, a dark, orange wall was rising. It wasn't a standard sandstorm, it was a Shomal surge, a massive wall of grit and heat moving at 100 miles per hour. Falcon let out a low, chirping warning and began his descent into the skeletal framework of the tower. Chapter 2: The Grit and the Gale. The storm hit the Khalifa-II like a physical blow. The sun was instantly blotted out, replaced by a terrifying, opaque orange haze as millions of tons of desert sand collided with the glass. The sound was a rhythmic, abrasive shriek as the grit sand blasted the tower's silver skin. At level 110, the primary window-washing gondola, a 5-ton platform carrying two men, Malik and Omar, was caught in the open. A sudden, violent updraft caught the gondola like a kite, lifting it several feet before slamming it back against the glass. The impact was catastrophic. 3 of the 4 primary steel cables snapped under the sheer lateral force of the wind, the metal whipping through the air like lethal snakes. The gondola tilted at a sickening 70-degree angle, swinging wildly over the 1,000-foot abyss. Malik and Omar were thrown against the safety rail, their harnesses the only things keeping them from being tossed into the orange vortex. They were suspended by a single, fraying cable that groaned under the weight of the tilting platform. Inside the control hub, the alarms were screaming, but the tower's automated rescue drones were grounded. The sand was so thick it would clog their rotors in seconds, and the 100 miles per hour gusts made flight a suicide mission. The emergency brakes on the gondola's track were jammed, the fine desert silt had poured into the gear teeth, turning the lubricant into a grinding paste. The platform began to slip, inch by agonizing inch, as the final cable unspooled from the drum at the top of the tower. Malik looked up, squinting through his goggles against the stinging sand. He could see the secondary safety drum, the last failsafe, located on a structural ledge just above their heads. But the manual release handle, a bright red lever designed to lock the cable drum in place, was out of reach. It sat on a narrow maintenance platform that was vibrating violently in the gale. Between the men and that lever lay a 10-foot gap of empty, screaming air that no human could bridge. Then, through the swirling orange dust, a silver shape appeared. Falcon was crouched on a nearby support beam, his claws dug deep into the rubberized seal of a window. His ears were pinned back against his skull, and his eyes were narrowed to slits, but he was steady. He was watching the men with a piercing intensity, his tail twitching as he sensed the vibration of the failing cable. In a world of high-tech failure, the Silver Cat was the only thing on the tower that wasn't breaking. Chapter 3: The Jammed Safety. The final cable drum was spinning. Every time it completed a rotation, the gondola dropped another 6 inches toward the streets below. Malik knew that once the cable reached its dead end on the spool, the remaining tension would snap the bolt, and they would plummet. "The lever, Omar! We have to hit the red lever!" Malik shouted, but his voice was shredded by the wind. Even if they had a reaching tool, the sand had likely jammed the internal pin of the safety release. Malik reached into his utility belt and pulled out a high-intensity green laser pointer, used for marking stress fractures in the glass. It was a desperate thought, born of hours spent playing with Falcon in the mechanical rooms during lunch breaks. He aimed the beam at the red handle of the safety drum. The brilliant green dot pierced through the orange silt, landing square on the metal lever. "Come on, Falcon," Malik prayed, his knuckles white as he gripped the railing. "Be a hunter." Falcon's predatory brain shifted into high gear. To him, the storm was just a change in the environment, but that green dot was a target, a shimmering, elusive prey that he had chased through the corridors of the 100th floor 100 times. He ignored the roar of the wind and the swaying of the tower. He calculated the distance, the wind resistance, and the angle of the ledge. His long Egyptian Mao legs coiled like springs, his silver fur rippling in the gale. The leap was a masterpiece of physics. Falcon launched himself from the support beam, a silver arrow cutting through the orange haze. For a second, he was completely airborne over 1,000 feet of nothingness. The wind tried to push him sideways, but he adjusted his tail in mid-air, a living rudder that kept him on course. He slammed into the maintenance platform with a dull thud, his claws instantly locking into the textured metal. He was on the drum, and the green dot was dancing right before his nose. The cat swatted at the dot, his paw hitting the red handle with a metallic clack. But the lever didn't move. As Malik feared, the safety pin was jammed by the accumulation of sand. Falcon didn't give up, the dot moved to the base of the pin, and he began to dig at it with the frantic energy of a cat trying to unearth a mouse. He was a 10-pound creature fighting a mechanical lock that was designed for human hands, but he had the advantage of persistent, focused instinct. Chapter 4: The Leap of Faith. Falcon shifted his weight, his silver spots blurring as he worked. He realized that prey was beneath the handle. He wedged his powerful hind legs against the cable drum and shoved his shoulder against the red lever. He wasn't just playing anymore, he was using his entire body as a pry bar. The sand-clogged pin began to groan under the lateral pressure. Below him, the gondola gave another sickening lurch as the cable unspooled another foot. Malik and Omar held their breath, watching the silver cat defy the desert. With a sharp, metallic snap, the sand-crusted pin sheared off. Falcon didn't stop there. He saw the green dot move to the very tip of the lever. He hooked his front claws into the handle and threw his weight backward, falling toward the edge of the ledge while keeping his grip tight. It was a move of pure feline physics, using his own falling mass to create the necessary torque. The lever moved an inch, then 2, then finally clicked into the locked position. Inside the drum, the secondary mechanical jaws slammed shut. The cable, which had been unspooling at a terrifying rate, was suddenly gripped by 1,000 pounds of hydraulic pressure. The gondola stopped with a bone-jarring jolt that nearly threw the men out of the platform, but the cable held. The descent was over. They were dangling, battered and bruised, but they were no longer falling. The glass canyon had been mastered by a cat who didn't know the meaning of the word impossible. Falcon pulled himself back onto the ledge, his chest heaving, his silver fur matted with grit and sweat. He looked down at the men, his sapphire-green eyes meeting Malik's through the glass. He didn't wait for a thank you, he simply shook his coat, sending a cloud of sand into the wind, and began the long climb back toward the shelter of the mechanical penthouse. He had caught the green dot, and in doing so, he had caught 2 lives before they hit the ground. The storm began to subside an hour later, the orange wall moving off toward the Persian Gulf. As the winds dropped to a manageable 30 miles per hour, the tower's elite mountain rescue team rappelled down from the level 120 balcony. They reached Malik and Omar, securing them with heavy-duty climbing harnesses and winching them to safety. When the rescuers reached the cable drum to investigate the failure, they found the sheared pin and the unmistakable scratch marks of a feline hero on the red handle. Chapter 5: The Weight of Survival. The story of the Guardian of the Glass Canyon spread through Dubai like a desert fire. The owners of the Khalifa-II, usually obsessed with the tower's sterile image, embraced the legend of the Silver Cat. Falcon was no longer an unofficial resident, he was given sovereign status on the tower. A specialized sky garden was constructed on the 100th floor setback, filled with desert grasses, climbing structures made of recycled cable, and a heated sleeping pod that looked out over the entire city. Malik and Omar returned to work 2 weeks later, but they never looked at the tower the same way again. They spent their own money to commission a specialized collar for Falcon, a lightweight, titanium band with a built-in GPS tracker and a charm shaped like a window-washing squeegee. Now, whenever they are out on the gondolas, they check their tablets to see where the silver ghost is prowling. They know that as long as Falcon is on the ledges, they have a guardian watching over their cables. The engineering team used the incident to redesign the safety drums, adding Falcon shields to protect the pins from sand infiltration. They also kept the original red lever, complete with the scratches from Falcon's claws, and placed it in a glass display case in the tower's main lobby. It serves as a reminder to the thousands of tourists who visit every day that the most advanced building in the world is still dependent on the ancient, primal bravery of the natural world. Falcon himself remains largely unchanged by his fame. He still prefers the high-velocity wind vanes to his heated skypod, and he still views the green laser pointers of the maintenance crew as his greatest rivals. He spends his days walking the glass canyon, a silver shadow in a world of crystal and light. He is a creature of the stratosphere, a master of the heights who proved that even at 3,000 feet, a heart full of courage is the only safety net that truly matters. As the sun sets over the Dubai skyline, casting a golden glow across the infinite glass of the Khalifa-II, Falcon sits on the very tip of the spire. He looks out at the desert, the silver of his coat matching the first stars of the evening. He lets out a contented purr that vibrates through the steel of the tower. He is the king of the clouds, the master of the ledge, and the soul of the skyscraper. The canyon is silent, the wind is calm, and the guardian is finally home. Falcon was a cat who lived in a world where one slip meant the end, but he was the only one who could move when the machines failed. He proved that even at 1,000 feet in the air, instinct is the ultimate safety net. If Falcon's high-altitude heroics took your breath away, hit that like button and subscribe to Paws that saved lives. We bring you the most thrilling animal legends on the planet. Comment SKY below if you believe animals are the true guardians of our world.